headlines I'll serve me.
Welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of Bourbon Over Headlines. Of course, we got the bourbon and we got the headlines. So let's begin. Now remember, this is where your headlines are served neat, always. Bourbon Over Headlines. So today we're going to do Juneau, Alaska in the year 1925. Now you might be thinking, Alaska 1925? Alaska wasn't a state yet. You're right. Alaska wasn't a state until 1959. But it was a territory since 1867. Okay? It was bought after the Civil War for approximately 2 cents an acre. At the time, it was considered, why are we doing this? Now, it's probably the bargain of all time. You try to get 2 cents an acre on anything that big, property anywhere, ain't happening. You try to buy property, you buy property anywhere, it's way more than 2 cents an acre. Okay? It just ain't happening. It was bought by, brain fart there. It was bought by Seward, Secretary of State Seward, with the help of a politician some of you may have heard of, may not have heard of, called Marcellus Clay. Cassius Marcellus Clay. Yeah. Shout out to the Thigh Electrician for getting me a little insight on that one. Here's to you, Nick. Bought there. Now, Juneau. Back to Juneau. In 1900, it was named the capital of the territory. Before that, the capital was Sitka. I've been to Sitka and Juneau. I've been to Alaska. This is why I picked it. Also because my wife loves Juneau. It's her favorite city in Alaska when we went on our cruise. And it's a great little city. Now, it's, if not the only one, I think one of only two, but I believe it's the only state capital that isn't accessible by land. And what I mean by that is that you cannot get to it driving your car there. You have to get to it by air or by boat. So, by air or by sea. In the Revolutionary War, it was one by land, two by sea. Now, in modern day, it would be one by air, two by sea. One by air, not by ground. Can't go on the ground. Revolutionary times was one by ground, two by sea. Now it would be one by air, two by sea. But back to what I was doing. So, 1906, it became, sorry, I'm just doing my notes. Everything was actually moved to Juneau to be the capital. It was named the capital in 1900. In 1906 is where they put all the governing bodies there. So, in 1925, which is where we're at today, I'm doing headlines from February 13th. Now, it's just coming out on February 15th, 2026, so 101 years later. I couldn't find anything for the 16th in Juneau on the paper they had. Just couldn't do it. Newspapers.com, it's a great resource for what I'm doing, but it doesn't have every single date. If it can't find it, it can't find it. If it wasn't uploaded or got lost in history. So, just a little bit of the headlines from there. And I found it funny that a lot of the Alaska stuff is from other states, other parts of the country. Like this was the time of Prohibition, which I couldn't do this during Prohibition, but bottoms up. I'm drinking Four Roses tonight out of my own glasses. These are glasses that my lovely wife got me. They have my F in them. That's my real name, Jason Freeman. I'm doing Bourbon Over Headlines. So it says here, and I had to do this when I saw this, 3,000 cases of whiskey seized. And this is out of, I believe, New Jersey. So even today, back then and today, 100 years apart, Jersey is a little, is doing stuff illegal. You know, you got the mob, Sopranos, you know, that whole stereotype. And here in Prohibition, you got 3,000 cases of whiskey. Bourbon's a whiskey. The show's based off that. So the title, Bourbon Over Headlines. Now, it's funny, the 3,000 cases in Jersey. Now, if they had gotten to Alaska, maybe they wouldn't have been seized because who's going to, or federal agents are going to come all the way up to Alaska to do some, to see some alcohol. And it's right by Canada. You could have brought it down, put it on your ships, and brought it onto the West Coast. I'm not a bootlegger. Wasn't back then, but it seems like a little bit away around the system back then. Last place anyone in the Untouchables, or anyone in the Treasury Department, anyone in the FBI is going to start looking where you're bringing your alcohol from in 1925 is going to be through Alaska. Okay, now, also, I found this interesting. This is one of the reasons I did this, is that I got the sports page. It says sports on here, okay? Now, I don't know about you, but I've read a lot of newspapers. I've done a lot of things. I've read some newspapers. I'm a little older than some of the young kids. I'm also internet savvy. There's papers online, doing news. I had never seen anything like this. They posted the local league bowling scores, the local bowling league scores in the paper. In the paper. You try to find on the website of, the actual bowling alley where it's being played league scores. They posted this in the paper. And it says, Mrs. McDonald's, Miss Gray's team is a winner. First place in the local bowling league. Posted the scores. You had some 200, I think you had 220, 225, 185. Some decent scores. No 300s though. It's a perfect score in bowling, by the way. No 300s. Kind of interesting that that's done it. Now, just like everywhere else, in every city, small, big, I don't care what size, medium, there's always going to be a car dealership. Even in Juneau, even in Alaska, 1925 was a Buick dealership. Connors Buick. Connors Motor Company selling Buick. The features that make driving a pleasure for Buick owners. This is Alaska in February. It's winter. More on that in a second, because there's a end of January, early February is a very, very interesting event happen that a lot of you may know. Some of you may know it through a Disney movie, believe it or not, because this was Disney-fied, this event. Just other things is a bunch of ads. You got garage ad. What I find funny is that at the top of the sports page they have a comic strip. Also, the sports page is somewhere it says sports. It depicts baseball, tennis, golfing in Alaska in February. That ought to be fun to see. I want to see that one. I really, really do. Also, remember, spring training is coming up. Even back in 1925, they had spring. It wasn't as spring way it is now. Babe Ruth is reducing runs off the pounds. So this is 25. So this is during the height of Babe Ruth. 2 years later, he would hit 60 home runs. He was always on the pudgy side. So this is when he started getting more into shape, started running in the offseason, shedded like 20, 25 pounds this offseason, came back in great shape. 1925 wasn't his best year. I think he got injured. This was the year where he ran into the wall at Yankee Stadium, probably got a concussion, got back up and played. I think this is the year. Don't remember exactly. But it wasn't like his best year. Well, by Ruth standards, okay? I don't have the stats in front of me, but knowing, I think in 1925 he hit 330-something, hit 40 home runs, 100 RBIs, I think 130 RBIs, which, good numbers by today's standards. But for Babe Ruth, when 2 years later you're batting I think you batted 373, 60 home runs, 170 RBIs in 27, so 2 years later, he upped all those stats. That's impressive. And he was still slim then. So I just think I find it very interesting, the stuff that's in essentially a small town capital. And in 1925 Alaska, trying to find newspapers, there's this and there's McGrath. Nothing else. All the papers uploaded. There isn't that much. There's Fairbanks. Just some simple stats. From 1920 to 1930, the population of Juneau was between 3,000 to 4,000 people. Think about that. 3,000 to 4,000 people. Probably where you live, in the community, the direct community where you live, there might be 3,000 to 4,000 people in your neighborhood. This is an entire capital city. New York had probably couple 100,000 by this time. Again, didn't look it up. I just know New York's always been populated, probably a couple times. The governor, Scott Boone. Now, this is where we get into something that's very interesting that happened. So, late January, early February 1925. Let's bring it down because this is serious, people. Take a sip of bourbon before we do this. If you have some whiskey, have some bourbon, pour a glass. It's story time. It's story time. up in Juneau, Alaska, right below the Arctic Circle. Now it's known as an oil place. Probably still a mining oil. It was mining and oil back. It was mining back then. It was a port town, a slope town back then. Right on the North Slope. They had a diphtheria outbreak. Now, diphtheria is a disease. It can be contagious. Now, remember, this is Alaska in 1925. Even by today's standards, Alaska's out in the West. It's out there. When we went on our cruise, we had to fly to Seattle. We got to sail. It still took us 2 days to get to Alaska, and that's going on a boat, probably going 30 miles an hour. If we flew, it'd still be another 4 or 5 hours to land, and you couldn't land in Juneau. You probably had to go to Anchorage. That's the biggest city in Alaska, is Anchorage. So, and this is 1925. You didn't have planes like they were today. Planes in 1903, when the Wright brothers flew, you had a little bit of biplaneage in World War I. So this is right between it become mass done, 30s, 40s, right before Howard Hughes started doing his thing and popping off and making, by today's standards, billions of dollars, millions of dollars. Right after World War I, so planes are in that little category. They're not quite the commercial planes we know today. They're probably still mostly biplanes or triplanes, depending where you're at. Here in Alaska, it's old biplanes and triplanes, which aren't the best in winter because they're covered in cloth. They're run by air-cooled propellers. There's no jet engines at this time. And you don't want an air-cooled engine when it's negative 40 out. So back to, no, they have a diphtheria outbreak. There's one doctor, because this is Nome, Alaska, 1925. There's one doctor in the entire city, in the entire area, for the European settlers and for the natives. There's one doctor. So he starts to see these cases, the diagnosis of diphtheria. He goes to where he keeps his medicine, notices that the diphtheria antitoxin, or the antidote, that's basically what he needs to give them, has expired. Now, he could have been slightly not a great doctor and be like, I want to give it, might not be super bad. Can't find out exactly how long it had been expired. This was expired. So he had to get more of the serum. The diphtheria serum, so he could prevent this outbreak and wiping out everybody in the area. Now we're talking about probably 500-600 people if you count the indigenous, everybody else in this area, that would wipe them out if he couldn't contain it. So he sent a message out to anyone, Governor Boone, Governor Scott Boone, and says this is what's going on. He needs it. They sat down, him, the United States government. This is still territory, so the United States government, the governor, everybody tried to figure out the best way to get this serum to Nome. Okay, now, they come up with a very interesting solution. You don't fly it in, can't boat it because going around Alaska, coming up, would take too long. This is time sensitive. They use dog sleds. People are like, well, duh, they use that, but this is 1925. Also, this is winter. I just don't mean regular winter. We're coming off, this is February. This is going to be, I'm filming mid-February. This is going to be released February 15th. Across the country, we're coming off a couple weeks of what we would consider cold. Close to blizzard-like conditions in certain parts of the country, inches, foot of snow in some places. That's nothing compared to this in 1925 Alaska. This was a pure, all-out, full-throttle blizzard, okay? I mean, negative 20 before the wind chill. Negative 20 before the wind chill. Wind chill's up to, I think in my notes it says, negative 50. Negative 50. So they have to keep the serum warm. So what they do is they get the antitoxins, it was called serum. We're going to call it serum. They get the medicine, or medicine. They get the medicine. Now, this can't just be one dog sled team, because they're going to go from, not Juneau, but they're going to go from, I think, Fairbanks, somewhere, Fairbanks or Anchorage, I think it's Fairbanks, to Nome. That's still a long trek by today's standards, much less 1925 when there's no roads. Okay, no roads. None at all. Okay, no roads at all. So, in the middle of a blizzard, nowhere letting up. They asked for volunteers. Sorry about that. They asked for volunteers. Get I think it was 15, 20 sled teams together with their dogs, and they do this. They only have a short time to get there before it reaches the tipping point in Nome. 2 weeks. They got 2 weeks, no more. And now you're going hundreds of miles. I think it ended up being 300 and something miles they had to go in a blizzard-like conditions. Not just one day blizzard. I mean, the whole time. I think the warmest it was when I read about it was -10. That was the warmest. -20, -30, wind chills, -50 plus. So -50, -55. That's insane. Absolutely, positively insane. So, they do this. They go done. First team goes off. They have it plotted out. Now, these sled dogs are amazing. So, the Disney movie that this is sort of based on is called Balto. I'm sure if you're my generation, I'm a millennial, even maybe some of your Gen Z, younger, especially maybe Gen X, have seen Balto. It's a Disney movie, came out I think 93, 94. So almost 30 years ago now, 30 plus years ago. It came out in that little Disney Renaissance era, which is a Disney-fied version of this serum run with Balto as this lead star. Now, history says Balto wasn't the big star. There's even controversy that Balto the dog even was on this thing. Okay. There's a statue of Balto, I think in Central Park, commemorating this run. The main dog you have to know about is a dog called Togo, which I personally think is a much better name than Balto. Togo. And his guy, and the leader of his sled. This team, led by Togo, went 250 miles in this journey over several days. They were the bulwark, the anchors. They didn't do the final leg. This is where the controversy comes in. Togo and the team, I think it was Namasin or Namasama. I have it written down. It's hard to pronounce. It's a Norwegian guy, European. They took the bulk of this one, but they didn't get to do the final leg and get all the glory. That was another guy who supposedly had Balto. Some say it was Fox, because Balto was a backup dog for Togo's team, and Namasa, or whatever his name is. Sorry, I have it written down. I still can't pronounce it. Okay, not great at pronouncing names. All right. Yeah, I should have practiced it more, but I'm sort of doing this while I'm drinking bourbon. So they did this, I believe, they had 2 weeks. I think they did it right on the 2 week mark. Got the serum, it was good, but the conditions were amazing. They would stop. There's reports of the mushers, the humans on the dog sleds, pulling into stops along the way with frostbite bitten faces, with their hands literally frozen to the sled. They had to warm up the sleds with hot water, and so they could get their hands off, go to the fire, warm up, and also the most important part that we forget: they had to keep the serum, the medicine, warm and in a liquid form, so it didn't freeze. Because if it froze and undid, it would be bad. They wrapped this thing. They put it in a container. I think it was 20 vials. They put it in a container, wrapped it in a blanket. This thing was, but they still, when they sat down and they rested, whether it was at a stop or just rested for the day, because some of these teams were putting in 30-mile days in blizzard-like conditions with dogs. They couldn't see in front of them. The dogs knew the way. The dogs were sniffing. Togo, this amazing dog who was the lead of the anchor team. I mean, there's times where they couldn't see in front of them. The guy said, Namashasha, whatever his name is, said he could not see in front of his face, but he trusted Togo and the dogs to get him where they needed to go. Think about that. You cannot see. You're trusting your dog's sense of smell and your dog to make sure you get to where you need to go. And they did it. Now, I'm not sure if this could be put together today. I'm not sure we could put this together today, even with all the modern technology. Someone would want to film it on social media. Someone would die. Now, I think a couple people died just by the sheer conditions. But I mean, there would be a TikToker or a YouTuber, Instagrammer, someone going, oh, I want to do this, and film it, and then film themselves dying, and it'd be all over the place, and people would be like, why did we do this? Now, in today's Alaska, there is a race. It's called the Iditarod. It's a dog race. It's a dog sled race. It mimics this trail. This is why it was done. It's in honor of this run, this 1925 run. The medicine got there. I think 7 people died in Nome before they got the medicine up. Only 7. Could have been a lot worse. Got it, administered it. Everything was good to go. Dogs saved the day. And then Disney had to go and make a movie about it that was probably 90% fictional. But that's Disney for you. They own everything in today's world, but that's a different story for a different day. This is back to what we need to do. So in 1925, Alaska got put on the map for the first time. This is captured national thing. I said there's a statue of the dog in Central Park. This captured the nation. Would it capture the nation today? Maybe, but not as much because it wouldn't be done by dogs today. Technology, this would be done by planes. If for some reason there was a huge blizzard and Nome was snowed in and needed supplies, we would be able to fly them in, whether it be planes or drones, and drop supplies in. There wouldn't be this big dog sled race, but dog sleds, multiple teams. I think there was 20 teams at some point. Some dropped out, but I think told there was 20 teams that did at least 5 or 6 miles of this race at some point. That wouldn't happen today. You would not get dog sleds today. It would be done another way today. And that's sort of a shame. Because that's human perseverance in conditions that most of us will never experience and don't want to experience. I wouldn't want to experience negative 50, do you? No. The human spirit never ceases to amaze me when it's put to the test. Never does. I mean, when it's put to the test, it never ceases to amaze me. Say what you want about the world today. Divisions, this, we don't talk to each other, we don't do anything else. When it comes down to it, I believe, back in 1925, when this was going on, people who didn't know each other said, we need to save these people. And this is the best way to do it. And the governor got flack for deciding this way. They're like, no, there are people who want to do planes. Now we're talking about biplanes that were propeller planes that probably would have frozen up midair. Because if it's negative 50 on the ground, these planes could fly 30,000 feet up, and you wouldn't want them to. They're probably flying 4,000 or 5,000 feet. It's colder. It might be negative 60, negative 70, 3,000, 4,000 feet up. Okay? Hey, there's less oxygen, and it's colder. These things are not probably going to get there. You're going to have crashed planes littered all over the landscape. There's still planes up there they can't find. From the 60s and 70s in Alaska. That's how massive this is. Okay? And they did it in 1925. They got together. It gripped the nation. Stories in the New York Times, stories everywhere. I didn't look them all up, but it gripped the nation. And that's a story from 1925 that probably wouldn't happen today. As I'm filming this, we have a tragedy going on in Arizona. Okay? One of Savannah Guthrie's mom, and I'm sure we all know, we've been inundated 24/7 with the story. And it's a tragedy, don't get me wrong. It is. It's a super horrible tragedy. And it's gripping the nation. But would it be gripping the nation if it wasn't Savannah Guthrie? This is 1925 Alaska. It's not even a state yet. There are probably people who didn't know Alaska was even a territory in 1925 that were reading this and gripped by it in the newspapers. And they were reading newspapers back then. They didn't have, remember, this is pre-TV. You had radio, but this is pre-TV. The first TV, as we know it, the way the TV was invented before we got the HDs and the LEDs, 1927, Philo Farnsworth was the guy who created the modern TV. Okay? So 2 years before the modern TV, two years before the modern TV, through newspapers and radio broadcasts. Could you imagine this old-timey radio voice? Now, let's see here. Old-timey radio voice, 1920s, hello. Now, extra, up in Alaska, and no, trying to save the people from diphtheria. We got an update coming across the telepipe. Togo and his team have reached the final stop before the final leg. Only 20 more miles to know. Can they make it in time? Ladies and gentlemen, can they make it in time? We don't know. I can imagine that's how it was done over the radio. Gripping news. That's probably how it was done old-timey radio in 1925. Alaska. And that might have been why this story scripted. Because it put Alaska up and told people, hey, we still have Alaska. Alaska's still here. And it's amazing what could happen. Now, a couple more headlines just to get out of here. A new vessel. So, in Alaska, even today, but especially back here, a lot of places you have to ferry. New York's known for the Staten Island ferry or the ferries, but those don't compare into the ferry system in Alaska. Some places, Juneau's one of them, where you can't get in, you can't drive it in. The only way to get into Alaska, as I said, by air and by ship, and this is 1925, so you're going by ship. Supplies, everything's going in by ship. And so there's new vessel added to the Juneau-Petersburg run. So Petersburg, Alaska. Now, why is there Petersburg, Alaska, you might ask? Because it was a Russian territory, so probably named after St. Petersburg in Russia. But back then, especially back then, this is the only way you got supplies in. This is the capital city. This is where the government's at. All the nice, shiny government buildings are in Juneau, so you have to make sure the supplies are there. You have to make sure you have your people stocked. Music got in there. I couldn't find any novelty for dances. Just like everywhere else in the 20s, go to a local dance hall, dance, maybe find the love of your life. Who knows? This is the 1920s. You meet a nice girl. Meet a nice girl at the dance hall. You go from there. That's what happens. Next thing you know, you have 3 or 4 kids. You're married. You have 3 or 4 kids. It's amazing what happens. This is Alaska. Even to the day, there's a lot more men than women in Alaska. It's amazing. New music. 1920s. I'm sure it's new music to Alaska, but it might have been already swept through the rest of the country, because I'm sure Alaska was the last place to get some new music. Juneau might be quicker, but no Spotify back then, people. No Spotify, no iTunes, no Apple Music, no Amazon Music. Probably took months, and I know it took months and months and months to get something. If you ordered something, even out of Seattle, let's say you had the Sears or Roebuck catalog. They're going to throw it, oh, I want this. If you want something for Christmas, you picked it out in July to get there on Christmas, because it probably wasn't getting there. It might have got there in November by Thanksgiving, because by the time you got the order went through, they shipped it, it got up to Alaska. It probably took 4 or 5 months. It still takes 4 or 5 months in some areas. It's gotten better. Smart technology has gotten better. But back then, you ordered Christmas in July. Literally. Couple more things before I get out of here today. They had the fire alarm calls. This is something, fire alarms throughout the city, addresses. 1615 Alaska Avenue, fire alarm. Think about that. That wouldn't be posted in days. There's so much going on in the world. You can't find that. I'm sure you went to the local, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. If I went to the JF, the Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department website, or went to their page on Facebook or whatever, Instagram page, I'm sure I couldn't find a list of all the fire alarms in the city. A, it'd be extremely long, but they wouldn't be posted. This is the stuff that fascinates me. This is why I did this page. You got bowling scores and fire alarm calls posted in the paper for everybody to read. That's just amazing. And this is Alaska, so it's amazing. Most of these stories are from, like, you got Jersey, New York, Wisconsin, D.C. Everybody's doing stuff here. February, there's a school show, so they're still going to school in Alaska in 1925 in February, because it's a snow day for them. As long as they can get there, they're good. So it's amazing what you can find. It's amazing how we can do this. But I challenge anyone out there to find me bowling scores, bowling tournament scores posted somewhere that's readily available for everyone in your local town. Go to your local town, your local newspaper if it has one, or a local paper. I'm sure there's different types of papers. Go to a local bowling website. I'm sure there's tons of bowling. Bolero, I know, is one that's somewhat national. Go to your local Bolero. Go to the website for your local Bolero. See if they post the league scores. They probably don't. But it's 100 years ago, you're posting league scores, and you knew the person who was in the league. You might have been in it, but you knew that person. That was your neighbor. You knew they won or they lost the bowling league, the bowling tournament. Now we don't know who wins or loses the Olympics, because you might not be watching the Olympics. So it's fascinating to me. You got a pre-inventory sale, because you probably had to order it before it got there. Again, it took months to get this, so they're probably waiting for it. Just funny what's going on here. But I still find the 3,000 cases of whiskey, good thing we're not in Prohibition today, were seized. And that made the Alaska newspaper, it's from Jersey, Atlantic City, Jersey, all the way in the Juneau newspaper. Probably not going to find a Alaska story. Maybe the Jersey version have something from, as I said, from late January, February, the Togo, the serum run, the medicine run, no. That might have been after that happened. You're not going to find probably a Jersey paper that's going to report on anything in Alaska. But it's in the Alaska paper. In the world of 24-hour news cycles, you hear stuff from all over the place, and where it's commonplace. But if you're in Alaska in Juneau in 1925, Prohibition might not affect you the same way it does. This is the time of Capone and organized crimes getting started in the 20s. So the roaring 20s. This is the time of Jay Gatsby and all that stuff. And we're in Juneau, Alaska, people. We're getting about 3,000 cases of whiskey in Jersey, and finding out that Mrs. Gray's team won the bowling tournament. And Babe Ruth is losing weight by running. By God, some things stay the same, and some things don't. I don't know if we should go back to putting bowling scores in the newspaper. Who knows? It's hard to find the PBA scores in the newspaper. I could probably find them on ESPN. The PBA, the professional, I could probably find the bowling scores on ESPN or SI.com or Fox Sports. I could find it. It would take me a while to do it. It would, because they're not going to be on the front page. This is the sports page in the paper. Has them prominently displayed on there with the scores. It's amazing. And even in today's world, newspapers, Facebook, internet, ads everywhere. There's ads. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 plus ads. What makes the world go around? Even back then, there was ads everywhere. So, this is Bourbon Over Headlines. where your headlines are served neat. I'm Jason Freeman. Remember, like, subscribe. If you want to, give it a thumbs up. Tell your friends. Where we drink bourbon, talk about headlines. Remember to drink responsibly and be neat, my friends.